Howdy.
Hello.
Good to meet ya. Howdy, Larkin and Amanda here, being weird as usual. And we wanted to first announce to those who haven't heard that on August 26th there will be a screening in Dallas of the Jones Plantation, and we shall both be there in person. So shall the director, Andrew Treglia, and Lee Gallman, who plays Mr. Jones, and I think a few others of the cast, but I don't want to say for sure because I'm not sure. I don't want to promise anybody's going to be there and then find out, whoops, they can't make it. But surprise guests. That's what the all-encompassing surprise guests label is for. So, if you're in the Dallas area and you don't yet have tickets for it, you can check the description below for how to get them. That's less than 2 weeks away. So get a move on. And it's only, I think, 160 seat theater. So you might want to get a move on sooner rather than later.
Also, there are generally like two categories: people that run into us, or friends that we know, or people in the Liberty community fall into. And it's either the one that they are trying as hard as they can to eventually meet up with us in person, because they say something like, hey, we want to like meet you guys in person eventually, because we've been friends with you online for a while. Or it's the other type of person where people know that we're going to be at an event, like a screening like this, and they sort of think, well, Larkin and Amanda are already being surrounded by all of these people, so I will just wait and do this later. I don't want to bombard them, even though I want to meet them, because there's all these other people that are going to try to talk to them. And we appreciate that, and that's very polite of you. But I just wanted to say, this is one event where if I know you, or you know me at all, or if you know of us at all, and you're in Dallas or anywhere near that screening, come and see the movie and try to talk to us if you want. And that's what we're there for, and that's the point. And yes, that much peopling is overwhelming for us, but it's all for an awesome cause, and we enjoy it, and it's the best kind of peopling for introverts, I guess.
Yeah.
It is.
So when we do events like this is the time that we expect to be basically peopled to death. So,
right.
By all means, show up and say hi. Oh, and
Don't be shy, basically, because we've now heard too many stories of people who I guess had known us from a distance or online only, or had even almost met us in person at an event, and we didn't get to talk to them until like 5 years after the fact, because they were like, well, I just thought
you looked busy.
I didn't want to, and we're like, but you're really cool. You're a really neat person. And they end up being,
So feel free to be one of the people we're busy with. And I should have mentioned that this isn't just a showing of the movie. We're doing a half-hour meet and greet beforehand. And then afterwards, we're going to do a question and answer session that goes, I'm not sure how long we have the theater, but probably at least an hour. I don't know. And then often there's even hanging around after the fact. Now, this is a matinee. It's at 3 p.m, so it's not the sort of thing that you'll get home at 2 a.m. From going to a late movie. So, yeah, we're going to be hanging out. We'll be answering questions afterwards, but then it'll get into informal babbling until we get overwhelmed and run away. By all means, show up and help wear us out.
Yeah, for those who don't know, just to get you up to speed, the movie has now aired in front of the Anarchapulco audience, which was a few hundred people, the Porkfest audience, which was a few hundred people, Tempe audience, which was almost 300 people, and the online showing, the tickets sold was different than like the actual people watching, because there were a bunch of watch parties. So we think that actual watching numbers was probably closer to like 2,000 people that watched it on Saturday night.
Somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000.
Yeah,
600 and some tickets. And
and then
had a bunch.
And then there, and so people are liking it and enjoying it so far. So that's really good. And the good news is the way that Larkin and I received it when we saw the rough cut, and the way we have liked it and enjoyed it. Everyone else seems to be reflecting that so far, including people who are not necessarily familiar with the way that we talk about the ideas of liberty and freedom in this community in particular, and they're more outsiders, and they appreciated it. So that's what we want. We want everyone to enjoy it.
And that's actually the specific reason I wanted to make this video, other than to make sure people know about the Dallas screening, is this particular video, more than any other I've ever made, like, because when Andrew had the idea of making my little Jones Plantation animated thing into a movie, I was like, that's perfect. That's the perfect thing to make into a movie. It isn't something that anybody has any basis to complain about. I mean, people can nitpick about technical production things if they feel like it, but most people have been like way impressed that it was nearly as good as it is. But I'm talking about if I did something that was more like voluntarist, in your face, lots of people would debate it and get defensive and stuff. Nobody needs to get defensive of this. So we've already heard back firsthand and secondhand from a bunch of people who aren't voluntarists, and some of them don't know much about me or anything about me. And it seems to be very thought-provoking, and it creates discussions back and forth. And among people who, whether they have never paid any attention to this stuff at all or are, on board already, it actually makes for a relatively comfortable discussion. And part of that is because the movie doesn't lecture about, here is how things must be, we're going to describe the ideal society. It just shows the creepy inner workings of what we have now. And when everybody sees what we have now, everybody goes, ugh, not that. And that can start the discussion.
It also, I think also, it doesn't, the way so many big budget movies have been like politically charged, but in a sort of hyperbolic way where it feels like so many people have talked about how it's annoying, where one way or another the writers feel like they've got their own political agenda, or it's in the writing in some way. And this movie somehow misses asserting something that would create that divide and conquer vibe in a room where suddenly there's a polarization and everyone's gonna disagree because it's asserting something that's really like edgy or controversial, because it's not. So that's another thing that's interesting, is everyone so far, a lot of different walks of life actually have seen this and liked it.
Well, and I think the reason for that is that most movies, when they get political, it's just the Mr. Jones crowd condemning the Mr. Johnson crowd, and the Mr. Johnson crowd condemning the Mr. Jones crowd, and they get mad at each other. Well,
directly, but I guess we can't.
For people who don't know what I mean, for people who don't know what I mean, you'll find out, and for people who don't know what I mean, you know what I mean.
Most of the people we're talking to, because it's you guys, know already what we're talking about. But if you're new to these concepts or Larkin's channel, you'll get that reference better when you see the movie. Yeah,
but the beauty of this is that anybody who watches it, even though I actually want people to not be sure whether, if they had been in that scenario, they would have been one of the good guys or they would have fallen for it. But nobody has a reason to be defensive unless they're like literally a psychopath. There's like, hey, you're making psychopaths look bad. Except a psychopath would go, yeah, that's what we do. They wouldn't even be offended. So nobody sort of needs to get defensive. And so much about the discussion where voluntarists are trying to talk to other people, that's why we have our whole candles in the dark thing. It becomes defensive and argumentative. And this movie doesn't have to do that, because unless somebody is literally a psychopath, it's not attacking them. It's just showing them a game that they may not have been fully aware of. And almost everybody has a little glimpse of it, but I think it shows it in a way that is going to make everybody uncomfortable in a good way, where they're like, wow, how much of this is actually fiction and how much of this is exactly what's going on now. But I love the fact that I've heard a whole bunch of people report well, I showed it to my, my friends or my whoever that didn't know anything about this, and they thought it was great, and they honed in on the significance of this and how that's like a representative of this, and different people can take different things out of it and notice different analogies, and I think that when people watch it more than once, they're going to notice a whole bunch more things. And I think even if they only watch it once, I think in the days and weeks following, there may still be stuff rattling around inside their head as they're going about, their lives and looking around and going, man, this is all Jones Plantation. We all live on Jones Plantation. That's why that's the tagline. But there isn't a reason for people to get defensive and argumentative. And so for all the different responses and different things that people have gotten out of it, one thing I have yet to have anybody report is that they showed it to a friend of theirs and their friend was upset Like, how could you, which would totally happen in a zillion other political discussions,
like if
they
something
feel
was
attacked.
Heavily right or left leaning in its agenda.
Yeah, which this isn't, and different people get different things out of it, but nobody really has a reason to feel attacked, and so far it seems like nobody is. Their view of reality is kind of being attacked, but it's not them personally. We're not saying you suck and here's why. We're saying here's the reality that you're living in, whether you know it or not, and how much they get of that and which particular things they notice, that's up to them, and then you have discussions. But I've had a lot of people say they showed it to people they know, and it led to a really interesting discussion, and that's what we're going for, is to make it so it's something that people can talk about instead of just another thing for people to argue about and get mad at each other about, like everything else coming out of Hollywood, which is basically tell half the country that you're all horrible and we're the awesome ones, and then that half of the country says you totally suck, we're the good ones, you're the horrible ones, and the people who watch Jones Plantation go, oh, I see who made them do that, and I see how it was done. So it's a lot more worthwhile, and oddly a lot less. It's totally controversial and not at all confrontational, if there can be such a thing. Like, it's not going to make people defensive and mad about the movie. I mean, it'll be funny that the first time somebody has that reaction, I don't even know how they would, but so far I've heard none of that. But I've heard plenty of people, passing on how normal people they got to watch the movie, like, have had interesting discussions and like, well, I'm not sure about this, but did this mean that? And I do think that we sort of, it leads into the discussion that has to happen. It doesn't fix it all. It's not like anybody's going to watch a movie and go, there, now I understand everything I will ever need to understand in life. But it can start them in the direction of talking about things and thinking about things that they never have before. And that's the goal.
Yeah, I just had something I was going to say, and I forgot because I was trying to...
Because I ran you out?
Because I was trying to mark my place in my head, and I was like, there's a point I was going to make here.
Whoopsie.
And I had it just like a second ago, and I lost it. No, but I think that part of the reason why people are going to like this film is it doesn't come across as... like, there isn't sort of the way a movie has an agenda, in that a lot of agendas are like moralizing. They're trying to tell people how to live their life. This isn't trying to give people some moral code or tell some people, like, it's not like Disney, like, this is how to live, you gotta believe in yourself, or it's literally like a peeling back the curtain type of a film. It's just like, here's kind of what it is. Yeah. It is. And that's kind of
and it doesn't
all
need
it's
to tell
demonstrating. Them. And it's not like, and now here's our solution that we have presented, and you should listen to our political solution for why, da da da. Like, that's, it doesn't,
no.
This film wasn't made that way, and it's kind of inherently anti that. So I think that's one of the main reasons everyone will like it. That said, I really want your guys' opinion, and I want you guys to go be the judge, and I am heavily, obviously, biased, because I felt like I wouldn't know if it was really good until people saw it, because I was too close to the film. I was like, I think this is good, but I don't know, until it comes out. And so far, fingers crossed, what people are saying is only good things. Everything that you hope people will say if you think your movie's actually good. So far, so good, but we still want to hear what you guys think. And don't take our word for it, that it's going to be good. Go see it and see what you think.
You can give your input on, like, the production value and the things you liked or didn't like, and that's fine. We want to hear that too. But mostly I want to hear from people the reactions they got from other people that they watched it with. And that's one of the things I wanted to focus on, is the theater experience. And as soon as I saw the rough draft, the first time Andrew showed us the rough edit of it, I was like, I can't wait to see this in front of an audience. And I think it's actually, there's an added aspect that's easy to miss, especially, I'm an antisocial introvert freak who's happy to, like, hide in a corner. And if there's something I'm going to watch it by myself, or, watch it with her. But I actually think there's something special about the shared experience of an audience watching this, even if the audience has no idea what to expect ahead of time. And we've seen that at the screenings where you can feel the reaction of the crowd to different things. Sometimes it's laughing and sometimes it's but there's something about going through that experience with somebody, even if you have like nothing in common and don't even know what they believe and they don't know what you believe or whatever, because to me it feels like sort of getting a glimpse behind the curtain of reality with somebody sitting next to you, and they're sort of getting glimpses of how things might be, and they might wonder how much of it is, how things really are, and how much, okay, it's not that bad, and they can theorize all they want about how much the allegory holds up. But I think it's really cool watching, I hate to use the phrase normal people, not weirdos who think about this stuff all the time like us, how they've been reacting to it. So mostly what I'm looking forward to hearing from people, and I've already heard pretty much, but I love hearing from people the reactions they got from other people they showed it to. And some people they showed it to their kid or something. By the way, this is it's R-rated or would be if there was such a rating on it, for like language and some violence. It's actually considerably less violent than the average slave movie as far as what it depicts. But it is on a slave plantation, so it's not exactly a pleasant, happy place, as you could probably guess. But yeah, I'm dying to know what more and more normal people think about this. And I think you'll find, as lots of people have told me they found already, that showing this to other people that that aren't already on board with the ideas isn't this weird, uncomfortable, awkward thing that often is the case if you're showing them something that's all preachy in a lecture about the principles of voluntarism or whatever else, where the person is like, well, I'm not sure. Like, it has none of that quality because it's in the form of a fictional story. So lots of people have said, yeah, we had a really cool, I watched it with a few of my friends and we had this discussion for 2 hours afterwards. And so I'd love to hear that kind of story, whether it's like you and one other person, or you got a watch meeting together, or you show up in Dallas and we watch it with 160 other people and get their reactions and see what people think. Because I think it really will be not only a shared experience with the people in a theater or a few people in somebody's living room, but eventually if it becomes part of the public discourse, like I hope it's going to, where, people with bigger audiences are talking about it and discussing the content of it and what it means and this and that and the other thing, I think it can sort of be a way for everyone to feel like they're on the same side, which is the exact opposite of what the Smiths of the world, the Mr. Smiths of the world, are trying to do, which is trying to make us, divide into groups and get mad at each other instead of them, which, by the way, is represented in the movie, too. But I think it's a way for people to actually come together and experience something, and regardless of politically where they started, I think everyone's going to get stuff out of it and have stuff to think about and talk about without having to feel like, enemies or my side and your side. And it might actually help them see through that and go, ugh, maybe that's why there is my side and your side, because there's Mr. Smiths in the world trying to make it that way.
Yeah, and I will say this, there's something about when you're next to people in a theater and something happens on the big screen, this just goes for any movie, and everyone laughs at some kind of particularly weird thing or reacts to a thing because it's an inside joke that the culture sort of now gets, or the culture can react to it. And something Larkin and I both have discussed before, but him in particular, he talks about is if you study human culture, it's interesting how often you'll notice that right when a culture has outgrown a belief or is beginning to outgrow a behavior belief that they're noticing is particularly bad or evil or downright whatever the practice is, that particular culture, society, and humanity will go from shunning speech about it because they can't look at that behavior to their comedians will begin to make comedy about it, and the culture will be able to laugh about it, and the jokes will come out about it, because there's something in that culture beginning to, all at once, enough of those people in that, individuals in that culture, recognize, even if they haven't given it up completely, they're able to recognize there's something funny about this. It's not quite acceptable, is it?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, notice what, I hope people go and watch the movie, and I hope you pay attention to what it feels like the whole room reacts to, not just you. And that sort of, I don't know how to put it other than, for lack of a better word, like camaraderie or connection between you and your fellow man, realizing, yeah, we all laughed at that for a good reason, because we recognized something there.
Yeah, and we're all in this together. By the way, that line is in the movie. We had to throw that in. But in a very real sense, we are. It's a chance for a bunch of normal people to go, yeah, that's kind of what they're doing to all of us, and left or right stops mattering anymore. Anyway, that was the main thing we wanted to babble about, so yep. I guess I don't need to babble on until I start foaming at the mouth and fall over backwards. See if anybody in the audience gets that
someone
reference.
In our audience will get that reference.
Our weird audience. So, if you want, if you're able to attend the Dallas screening on August 26th, you can see below, and we'll have the link for how to do that. And we'll also throw in the link of anybody can buy it online. We have the normal movie for $10. We have the normal version and the version with director's commentary that Andrew and I went through the whole movie and recorded our babbling about the behind the scenes stuff. You can get both of them for $15, or the all everything whatever it's called pass for $20, which includes the online watch party that we did, where we talked for I think almost 2 hours afterwards, the night it was first released online. There's a short intro, but we had technical glitches. But then after, we got that working again, we watched the movie and then had back and forth, and we were getting questions from people and talking about it. And Maurice, who plays Mr. Smith, was in on that, and we had Mr. Jones in on that, and there was lots of fun back and forth. So that's what the all whatever pass for $20 is. But they're all on jonesplantationfilm.com, but the link is below.
Heads up, just in case, because I know a lot of this is personal for you guys, like you guys kind of know us, some of our friends are in Dallas. Just heads up, Larkin will obviously most likely be flying out to whatever future screenings are done. Like, I know we hope to do one in Atlanta, probably LA, but I, being a mother and having a schedule here in the Valley, and it not being cost effective or time wise working for me to show up at all the screenings, will probably not be at any of the ones, more than likely not any of the ones past the Dallas one.
So it may be the last time you're here. And she was in the movie. I was an Irish indentured servant. She was up.
I was one of the whores next to Mr. Smith. I was in the blue dress representing for the left, and Brittany was in the red dress representing for the right, if anybody noticed that symbology.
Yeah.
But anyway,
now they did, because you just told.
But anyway, that's like such a subtle thing. It's in one of the first scenes. It's not really a spoiler of any kind. And most people don't notice that sort of detail. But we were in the movie briefly, but I am going to be there in Dallas for like the night of the screening, and only that night. And then I fly out like the next night. So if you aren't going to make it to the actual screening in Dallas, don't hang on to any hope that you'll be saying hi to me in the days after the screening, because I'm flying right back to Phoenix.
And I'm sure Andrew and I will be running around circles up until we meet up with you and then go do the screening. So
yeah, so he's in basically promo mode, and I have like a whole family here and stuff to do here too, so I can't just up and leave. But we are in Arizona, and sometimes I can get away to drive up to like Vegas or California. But we are in Arizona, so you can come visit us.
And to those who asked, there will be an Atlanta showing and an LA showing. I think the LA showing counts as the official premiere. I'm not even sure what that means. I think there was talk of a Vegas showing, and I don't even know. So like we're as fast, and there will be a DVD. We're getting this stuff done as fast as we can with a team of like 3 people. So we'll try to keep people updated on that. But for now, if you're anywhere near Dallas, or will be on the 26th, we will see you there. Yeehaw. The description below tells how to get tickets.
See ya.
Yeehaw.